Welcome to the Vetiver Vibes podcast. We're your hosts, Nikki, Rachel, and Rhonda, certified clinical aromatherapists coming to you from Ontario, Canada, and on the internet everywhere.
This episode is brought to you by Essentria, a leading online school for aromatherapy. Essentria is your go-to source for clinical aromatherapy certification programs that are recognized by NAHA and the Canadian Federation of Aromatherapists.
If you want to learn more about Aroma Massage course, check out their website, www.schoolofessentria.com. We're excited that you've given your time to be here with us, knowing you'll get the best essential oil scoop. Hi, welcome to this week's episode of Vetiver Vibes. Nikki here with Amy Anthony. Amy is a certified clinical aromatherapist and aromatic gardener who left her career in market to pursue what is closest to her heart, working with plants. Amy tends her own aromatic garden in the North Fork of Long Island, where she distills her unique products. Amy is currently the New York State representative for the Alliance of International Aromatherapists and has her private practice called NYC Aromatica, which includes one-on-one customized aromatherapy sessions, online class offerings, corporate counseling, and article writing. She also hosts her own amazing podcast, Essential Aromatica. Welcome, Amy. So happy to have you on the show this week.
Thank you, Nikki. I'm very happy to be here with you.
This week, we're really just going to talk about, the importance of what aromatherapy is to the general public, some misconceptions, importance of accreditation and knowing where to find information and all that. So one thing before we kind of dive in, we do like to ask all of our guests, what is your favorite oil or aroma? And I kind of put you on the spot with this one.
All of them, all of them. So the only way I can answer that question is, who am I currently having a love affair with?
Yes.
So I never blend with clove. It's rare that I do for emotional work. And I've usually used it for clients for oral care, shockingly, right?
Yeah.
So clove said hello 2 weeks ago because I was making split pea soup at St. George's, where I volunteer every Thursday. And I was like, you need clove in there. So I had bay leaf going on. I had thyme, the greatest hits. And I was like, clove. So I went home and I sat with clove oil for like 10 minutes. And I was really connecting with it and feeling the centeredness of it. And I was like, I need to blend. So then I blended it intuitively, backed by all my education and practice with myrrh and rose and a couple other friends. I'd have to look up the blend. And I've just been having a love affair with clove.
I love that. And you're very spot on the way you word it is you're having a love affair at the moment and the friends, because it's like, in this moment, this is my go-to, what I'm drawn to, oil. However, tomorrow that could change also.
Yeah.
So I do like how you worded that, because it is important.
Thank you. And also, you probably feel the same way. It's like, I live in New York, you're up in Ontario, and it's getting colder.
Yes.
And we need those warming oils. Like today, I was drawn to bone broth. I haven't had bone broth in months. And I just need this warmth.
Yeah.
And
I've been doing a soup a week. So I've been having, and there's always the bone broth in it, which that in itself I find as a funny term, because growing up, we just called it broth. We didn't put the word bone in it because it was just always made with bones. So it's like, okay. But yeah, we're doing a soup a week. And so, yeah, I'm loving, because it is now fall. We are full-fledged fall. And I do find also cassia is what I was getting pulled to last week a little bit more, and some sweet orange also.
Those go nicely together.
They do. It's all those nice fall blends and oils. It's high time for that.
You just have me thinking, when teaching, that when people ask, how do you blend? I often tell people, how do you cook? So like orange and the cinnamon or cassia go so nicely together.
Absolutely.
It's so intuitive in that way.
Yeah. Absolutely, especially when you're looking for aromas to combine and blend, formulate together. It's because you need the aroma to smell nice. Otherwise, people aren't going to use it. And
E-
so,
Exactly. I do you find like people are surprised by that advice in the
um,
aromatherapy world?
not too much. I'm personally someone who, because I work a lot with newer moms personally and children and that. So for them, I definitely blend as to like, what do you like, especially working with the children, because
Got
they
it.
really need to like the aroma to use it. Even just thinking of my own kids, when we're high emotion time, I pull out a couple and I'm like, all right, what is your pick today? And they smell and they're like, that one. And I'm like, great,
Mm,
let's use that one then, because it is. But I know I find some of our students have a hard time thinking of the aroma, and they get stuck in needing to do the math or only the therapeutic benefits or anything. It's like, no,
yep.
but it needs to smell pretty
Yeah.
because it's aromatic. It's aromatic that we're looking for. And if we're not getting the aromatic benefits of enjoying the aromatic scent, then there's a less likely chance of clients using it, unfortunately.
Exactly. And I love that like teaching and just learning approach. It's the and approach. And I love aromatherapy as we get into it more and more. It's just like you realize it does so much,
Mm,
like olfaction, emotion, scent recognition, tapping into memories, forming new memories, physiological like impact on your body. And I
absolutely.
think a lot of people don't realize all the levels that go into being an aromatherapist. They're like,
Mhm.
oh, some people like, it just smells nice. It's like you just put the diffuser on, right? And then you're like, no.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was originally, in my old corporate world before I got into aromatherapy. Yeah, I was just like, oh yeah, they're nice, they're pretty smelling things. And this is also, my experience with dollar bargain or essential oils, we will call them, which are not essential
Oh,
oils, before you
oh,
know that there are differences and you need, proper essential oils for safety and to get the therapeutic and aromatic and everything else benefits from them. So then I
yeah,
was like, oh yeah, now these ones actually work and they really do smell pretty too, though. So, and like you said, our scent affects our entire body, mind, body, and soul, and it's
yeah,
it's all connected through scent. It's a very powerful thing. So
it
yes,
is.
yes, they smell pretty, but there's a medical and aspect to the smell too.
Yeah. Like one thing I find really not gratifying, I don't like that word, but I've realized I really need to stress to people, even to remind like aromatherapy people, it's like we're breathing this stuff in.
Mhm,
Your body has to process it, parts per million, right? And
mhm,
if people are like, oh, yeah. It's like, I remember I just gave this community workshop. It's highlighted on my podcast, Connection, Nature, and Aromatherapy, and I created it for this community class. And I was talking about this in this class about how you're smelling that smell, that volatile things, like things we can smell. We're breathing them in; they're going into our blood. And this one guy was like, "Wow, like thanks for reminding me that." Like I really affected him. I'm so glad I got to interact with this person because we live in New York City. It's like you're bombarded by fumes,
everything.
it's really bad smells, really good smells. And it's like this is chemistry, guys, right?
Mhm,
We're talking about chemistry,
mhm.
vapor.
Yes.
Uh,
And as you say that, our smell also warns us of things. So it can attract us to something that we want. Like, if you're smelling a nice apple pie, you're going to want to eat the apple pie. However, if you are out walking and you walk by dog poop or something, that's going to warn you to maybe shift away. Like aromas are aromas. If they're good, bad, or somewhere in the middle, our body's going to react to them.
mhm.
So we want the good smelling stuff to have the positive chemical reactions in our body that we're looking for.
Actually, now that you say that, I never really thought about this. Like when I look at the palette of essential oils and the aromatics, none of them smell bad in my mind. Like I've trained myself to be neutral when I take this olfactory information in to try to get it, but it's like a lot of it's cultural where you're like, I don't like the smell of dill because X. But it's like all of its information, all of them smell really good. Like I was just smelling cassia, which I never work with. I just have it. I was like, oh, hello, friend.
Yeah. I only have one aroma that I still can't wrap my head around. I had two. It was geranium, which I've come around to with my last pregnancy last year. My body clearly craved it because I needed geranium daily at the end of my pregnancy and postpartum. I was so drawn to it. It was crazy. And then, oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank. The hippie oil.
Oh, patchouli.
Patchouli. Thank you. I'm like, why is my brain not coming to it? Patchouli. I haven't wrapped my head around patchouli yet. The scent, it's still not one that I can use. Every other oil, I don't have an issue. I can blend it on its own or in a formula. It doesn't really matter. But patchouli is one that I still can't touch it with a 10-foot pole.
Do you have a memory association?
I don't, which is the
Okay.
weird thing. And I purchased it to help with something specific. I don't remember what now because it was so long ago. And I opened that bottle and I couldn't close it fast enough. So, yeah.
I love that visceral reaction that we have to these things. I just think it's so cool how you could be in a room with people all smelling the same thing. And we know people smell differently because there's different receptors, right?
Yeah.
On and off genes, all genetics and all that. And you'll have like someone that's like over the moon with clary sage. And then you'll have the other person sitting next to them being like, oh,
Yeah.
and then someone else is like, I smell tea. It's just like crazy.
I had a cousin who she couldn't stand frankincense. I had brought it to her to really ground her before a major thing that was going to be happening to her. And she was like, no, get it away from me. And I was like, really? I'm like, okay, then we will find something else.
And that goes back to what you were sharing before. It's like, as the aromatherapist, it's our job to know the oils and the cast of characters, like I like to call them, and then be able to present them to someone saying like, okay, we're working with anxiety and pain. And like, okay, after we talked, I'm going to present these 10 oils to you and you're going to help me weed them out. So we get down to like 3 oils.
Absolutely.
And it's like, I love that because you're empowering the person and giving them choice with your guidance. And you're helping them realize, like, ideally, like it's not just one oil that's good for one thing, and how the sense of smell and preference is really important.
And even when you say that, even if you were to then pick the same 3 oils, let's say, you could totally blend them differently for someone else, depending on how many drops you use and everything else. So, someone might prefer one of the oils more than another one. So you would add a little bit more in that for someone else. So, I mean, even with the same oils, you get drastically different outcomes when blending.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Nice.
Yeah, that is a great point. And by doing that, you're not like diluting the efficacy of the therapeutic benefits because we know all you need is 1 drop of oil to see a shift. So it's like, I think like for your students and your listeners, it's like, don't be afraid, right? To put 2 drops in of this and 5 drops in of that.
Yeah. And this is something that I find for a lot of people who are starting and to make their own products, I'll say, or make their own blends and aren't necessarily certified. A lot of times it's great that they will do proper dilution, which that in itself, I applaud them. I'm like, yes, way to properly dilute. Thank you. But then they just like, if they need 6 drops and they have 3 oils, 2, 2, and 2. Or if they have, 20 drops needed and they're using 2 oils, 10 and 10. They just split it in half of like, okay, what's the amount? And and that's it. And I'm like, no, I mean, you can do that if you
Yes.
want to, absolutely. I mean, play with it, see which one you might want to have a little bit more of, which one you want to have less of. And I mean, as long as you're staying within even the individual safety max dilutions also, and all that
Yes.
type of stuff. So, but I'm like, just, this is the art of blending.
I wrote poetry down.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, another way. I always say it's an art, because it is an art
Yes.
form. We have our
So
science first of proper dilution. I always say you need to do the science part, the safety part first of proper dilution,
Mhm.
know how many drops you need in total and how many drops you can do of each individual oil in total for the max dilution. Because you
Yep.
don't want to have, a 5% bergamot or something like that, and then go out into the sun all summer. So you need to have that individual dilution safety also. But then after that, play around, have fun. It's like painting. You're not going to just paint a whole canvas blue. Grab them all and do a little bit of a dance and see which one works.
I love that dance. And back to the blend I made with the clove.
Yeah.
I forget what's in this bottle. I think it's 30 drops total. And I think there's 1 drop of clove. So
But
safety, right? It's
yeah.
safety and olfactory intensity. But like you're saying,
Yes.
I was taking into account a bunch of factors. And then I was kind of quenching it too, because like clove and rose go so well together. Anyway, I was just bringing it up because here's a case in point of this blend with what you're talking
Absolutely.
about.
Absolutely. And you were drawn to the clove, and all it does is take 1 drop. Like you said, 1 drop there's the therapeutic benefits in that for our body to respond and absorb and react how we want it to.
Exactly.
So,
there's so
absolutely.
much I want to like blabber about with you. I was just writing down, like, there's that mantra we have of less is more with
Yes.
aromatherapy. And then I do want to stress, if we can come back to it too, that with the poetry of blending and the art, it's like, that's when perfumery comes in. And a little secret I want to share with your listeners is, if they don't already know it, when you blend, let it sit.
Yes.
And let it sit alone. And it changes over a day, over hours, over a day, over days. And I remember teaching that to students, and they would blend for the first time and be so nervous. And I would ask them to take notes of right then and there, go home, smell your blend, come back tomorrow, smell your blend. And things changed and they got to realize that. So blending and taking that time to work in the perfumery way as well is very, very enriching and really sets your blending apart.
Yes. And especially for students who are looking to have like their own product line or things like that, you have to do that, because you want to know what something's going to smell like in 3 weeks when someone's coming to grab the product or something like that, versus the day you're blend. It's going to be 2 different aromas.
Exactly.
So absolutely sitting with it and, really tuning in as to what those differences are between day 1 and day 21.
Yeah.
So.
And then like, I love adjusting a blend and like the next day smelling it and be like, I always have my blending notes and question mark, 1 more drop, 2 more drops. And then I'll go back and then I'll smell it the day or 2 after. And then I'll be like, yep, 1 more drop of X. No, definitely not more of you. And then I update my notes, and it's so fun.
It is. When I have, I've been a consultant for a few companies looking for blends made. And it is that playing around and, like you said, letting it sit and then coming back and you're like, oh, what do I want to add? Is it good? Is it is something else needing to come into the play of it? Or are we good where we're at? And just the oils lined up and the notes all everywhere. It's a fun process.
It is.
So
it is. And I love that, because like you stressed, you have your science, your chemistry, safety. You always take that and then you bring that art in.
Yes.
And it's this beautiful marriage as an aromatherapist to be able to do that.
Absolutely. So do you find, being that you are part of aromatherapy associations, Do you find that there's enough word out there about associations? I'm going to kind of shift it a little bit to it. We're going to shift.
Yeah.
Just
Uh,
because, we're part of 2 aromatherapy associations. We're part of NAHA, which is National Aromatherapy. Wait, I always have to think about this. National Association for Holistic Aromatherapy. And then the CFA, which is the Canadian Federation of Aromatherapists. I find very few people know about the CFA, even Canadians. I'm like, it's the biggest Canadian association. Like, let's get out there. And then I do find a few more people know about NAHA, but still not a lot, unfortunately. And the importance of being part of associations and credited, being accredited aromatherapist, certified aromatherapist. I'd love to know your thoughts on all of that.
well, thank you. As we were chatting before, like, I think awareness of what aromatherapy is, of what essential oil therapy is we need awareness. We need general awareness campaigns. Like, the general public, and I'm interacting with a lot of general public in my practice of aromatherapy. People just don't know about essential oils, what they are, safety. None of them know about the organizations that, like you mentioned, including the Alliance of International Aromatherapists. Yeah. Sadly, when I was doing my training back in 2015, I didn't know of the AIA at all. And I find now that I'm the New York State rep, it is a volunteer position, but like, I wish I knew of it back then. It's a great organization. So many educational opportunities I get for like continuing education and just listening to great speakers. It's like, I want to answer your question. It's like, we need to public awareness. We have to get beyond our trade journals. How do we get into, I guess, like, not that people watch TV anymore, but, good old fashioned commercials, billboards. Yeah. I don't know, like, hey guys, wake up. Just because you can buy peppermint oil from your local CVS drugstore.
As is the Walmart. It's the Walmart peppermint from Walmart. Yep.
Yep. Like, people see that, they don't know what to do with it. And then we have these great organizations that you mentioned, and there's others, right? That give us ethical guidelines, safety guidelines. They set educational standards for the schools, such as your school.
That is a big thing. The standards of, and some of them have different levels. And so it's important to know what levels, because there is, like, we have a 50-hour introductory course. We call it foundations, because you can get a solid foundation. If you're a parent and just want to know how to use safely within your home, or if you're a massage therapist and you just have like a few oils you want to use and that's it, like, that would be the perfect thing. But 50 hours, or even and all of these pop-up websites of 2-hour course, and you're a certified in XYZ, like, not just aromatherapy and everything. And all of a sudden, and it's literally a 2-hour course. And it's like, that is not the same education as 475 hours. And I know you had certification courses at one time that you were teaching also. And I don't remember how long it was that you were, but like, huge difference between 2 hours, 50 hours, 475.
Yep. And including, you have to take an exam, you have to submit case studies, like, you have to demonstrate applied knowledge, your knowledge. And you're right. There's, it's a blessing and a curse, like I say, and the United States, and I believe Canada is the same. The FDA, the Federal Drug Administration, does not regulate essential oils. So I can go and purchase any oil I want. And that's a curse, and it's a blessing.
Yes, it is. And I mean, and we don't, because it's been thrown around in Canada, as it's Health Canada that regulates it all. And about, register, like, all kind of, and we're like, no, we don't want them to get involved more, because that will limit what, as an aromatherapist, we can do. But there just needs, and this is where aromatherapists need to scream at the top of our lungs, being like, get proper education, go to the associations like AIA, NAHA, CFA, and there's a whole bunch of others for around the world, depending on what country you live in, and see what they're saying, because it's very different a lot of the times than Susie Q at the mall selling an essential oil, who doesn't necessarily like, we have stores in Canada too, where it's like teenagers working at the stores. And it's like, you're not getting the information. You don't even know what you're buying, unfortunately.
Yeah. You know what? I'm not going to name names because that's not fair, but
no,
there's a company, I think they're actually based in Canada, but that's neither here nor there. I've been to their stores, and I actually had one of their employees in the level 1 training, but not all these employees that work at these stores get certified in aromatherapy.
No.
So like what do these people know? It's just like there's this issue at supplement stores.
Yeah.
You think you'd have like registered people that will be working with you, and no, it's not the case.
No, unfortunately. I know we've had people reach out to us who are looking to open up stores, either their own like product lines, or they want to bring in essential oils to make their own blends to then just sell like master formulated blends, all of that type of stuff. And they'll typically find one person to become certified, and then they do the heavy work, and then the other people might get a small amount of education, but they won't have this like the clinical certification. And I'm like, that is a great first step. I mean, eventually in a perfect world, everybody would be, because the frontline people are the ones dealing with the customers and the clients.
Exactly.
So they're the ones who need the answer. But even if they have that base foundation of safety, and then they can go back to that 1 or 2 people that are fully certified to answer any of the actual questions that people might have.
That's a good point. Yeah.
But no, unfortunately, a lot of places, they don't see the need. And that's where we need to, like you said, find billboards or something. Everything now is pretty much Facebook ads and Instagram ads. And if it's not that, like, I honestly don't, or Google ads, and I don't know how to reach anyone else otherwise. I mean,
it's like self-selection, right? Like people, and I've thought about this, like people that are curious about oils will find the books and find schools such as yourselves. And I want to make a point about me, because I do have online classes, but I'm not offering certification. I'm like, hey, get to learn an oil, get to learn how to make a cream. I'm not pretending to be, or nor do I want to be, a school that offers what you do. Like, I see my role as being like, hey guys, let's talk about aromatherapy. And then people that get serious look to someone like you,
But your role is unbelievably important. Those courses are what draws people into, how do I use them safely? When you start questioning is when typically people start to look for those workshops and mini courses, I find. And that's the most important. And then once you can get people there, it's like, all right, now let's see this whole wide world of aromatherapy.
I know.
It's like you just open up a whole world and of its own. It's great.
You know what? One thing I really miss about the teaching at in person and teaching the certification classes is you'll get people that sign up and they don't want to become certified. They just want the knowledge. So they won't complete their exam and do the case studies. But even those people, they'll be like, this literally changed my life. And I heard it over and over. And you see the transformation that happens during workshops and of course the certification classes. But like this weekend, I did a community class at a local garden center out on Long Island, this place I love. And the manager, Louisa, she's amazing. And I ended up like working with her husband, and it was just like, and to see him, like, to get men involved makes me so happy, like to see their faces and like have them working with the oils and seeing them transform. It's just,
I go on cloud 9, or when someone has a concept that just clicks, it just clicks all of a sudden. I'm like, yes, I just celebrate with them because it makes all the difference. We had a student who they couldn't figure out the blending portion. They
Mm,
couldn't wrap around their head around the blending. And that's a hard one for some people. Because they just get too stuck in it
yep.
needs to be a certain math. And I'm like, it doesn't need to be a
Yep.
certain math. But, and so seeing things click, or all of a sudden, I, working with in workshops, all of a sudden someone's like, oh, I can use this. Like,
Yeah.
and I don't have to have XYZ down the road of, I can have a good night's sleep, or any of that. I feel like everyone, and this brings me to, everyone has a little bit of an aha moment.
I was just going to
Do you
say
have an
that.
aha moment?
Yeah. Yeah. I love, there's that, like you're saying that, like, or like, oh, I could make my own sugar scrub. Like,
Right.
yeah, you don't have to go pay $20, $30 for that stuff. Are you kidding me? And when
And
you
to have
give,
it full of toxins that you don't
oh,
know what's in it. Like, that's
yeah,
my thing, is like, yeah, you can make it at home and you know what's in it.
yep. And you make enough to suit your needs. Like,
Yes.
so like, because we think of bacteria growth and stuff like that, like you make yourself a cup
Yeah.
or you make yourself an ounce of cream and you'll be using that up because you'll love it so much.
Yeah.
So it's like when you, like you're saying, those aha moments that I just get excited thinking about it. Like, for goodness sakes, I'm making a scrub today, right after our conversation. And I like every time I do it, I'm like, this is the best thing ever. Like I still get excited.
Nice. So do you use sugar or salt, or do you use other things? What do you like to use most? Just
My
with the
go,
yeah.
thank you. My go-to is the turbinado sugar because I realize
Okay.
I like the texture.
Yeah.
And I don't use a fine sugar unless it was for the face, if you're
Mhm.
doing like a weekly scrub. And for that, I really like that confectioner's sugar, the really
Okay.
fine,
Yes. Yeah.
not the kind you make frosting with, but the really fine grains. I forget the
Okay.
word. But anyway, I don't make salt glows or scrubs. I prefer sugar.
Yeah. Nice. Oh,
Um,
ah,
ah, where were we?
I love it. Your aha moment. I
Yeah,
know.
well, yeah.
It's like easy to
But
go.
yeah, those people's aha moments of when they're in, like you said, you're teaching like measuring, or my favorite was uh, chemistry, how to
Mm,
make people excited about chemistry and not make it so daunting, and trying to think of different ways to teach it was always really rewarding for me. And when you get that one person that's like, that wasn't as bad as I thought, you're like,
right.
yay.
So chemistry's still not my forte, but Rhonda, and this is where it's amazing that we have the three of us, because the three of us all have our own strengths, and Rhonda is our chemistry expert. She developed our whole chemistry lesson for that exact thing, because people just find it daunting. They're like, oh, nightmares of high school chemistry. And we're like, no, 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 no. Like, it's step by step. We really break it down so that you can easily understand it. And we even have videos with marshmallows and toothpicks and creating like but you have to find it fun, so for people who like, now I get it.
Yeah. I'm just thinking hands-on is important too, because in aromatherapy, it's like it's an applied practice. So making your own products, working with the
Mm,
oils, getting to know the plants, I think is vital. So whenever I can, and I have a workshop or like if I'm tabling at an event, um, or even if I'm doing a private one-on-one session with someone, it's like having the plant material is really important, and having them like drink a tea and being like, here's ginger
mm,
tea, look at the ginger, and really connecting with, and this is my soapbox part of my pedestal is um, like, know the plants. This is a way to connect with plants. This is the love of the earth. This is the
mm.
gorgeousness of earth in a very portable format that works with
Yes.
our nervous system, right? It's like, you got to know the plants and realize, I think, oh my gosh, I could go on forever. Like a lot of the disconnection we have as our society is like, we're disconnected from nature. And I
Yeah.
think And tell me if you find this, like when people find the oils and the oils found me, I did not think I'd go on this path at
Oh,
all. I thought I was going to be a
definitely.
professional organizer when I quit my corporate job, but they found me. And it was my way looking back of connecting with nature. And this goes back to that class I mentioned it's on my podcast, Connection, Nature and Aromatherapy. Like this is a real, my story. But I'm curious what you've seen in your practice and with teaching. And
No, connecting is super important. And for myself personally, I find it's a very funny journey because I can't keep a plant alive to save my life. I can't. I keep trying and trying. And my husband even says, like, when are you going to give it up? And I'm like, bottle form, you give me a plant in a bottle form, I got you. You give me a live plant, that thing's dead within 3 weeks, hands down. And growing up, though, both my parents are very huge gardeners. Both come from a family of farmers. And like, we have just under an acre lot, and 3/4 of the yard is all garden. Like, I was out there helping them. And yeah, nope, I can't keep a plant alive though now to save my life. And my mom will still come over and do planting stuff at my house because she knows that I can't do it. And I'm like, I can't. But to be in nature and with the plants, I need and I love, like forest bathing and just honestly laying on the ground, laying on the grass and the dirt is something that I love to do. It's just so grounding and reconnecting. And people laugh at me when I say that I'm a tree hugger, and they're like, a legit tree hugger? I'm like, yes, a legit tree hugger. I go and I hug a tree because I am thankful for them and grateful that they are here. And I love them. So yeah. And so, just trying to pass that down now to other people of reconnecting with the plants.
Yeah. And like you were saying, you don't have to be a gardener. It's not for everybody. Just like
No.
aromatherapy is not for everybody. There's different modalities people can gravitate towards, but
Yeah.
like we humans need nature. And if we can
Yes.
find ways to tap into them. And I love saying this, and I think David Crow said the essential oils are distilled sunlight in a bottle.
Oh,
And like that to me is just so poetic. And the connection's important. And I think when we reach people with the oils, they don't know it, but they're like their soul is getting that nature connection that it needs.
Yes. Oh, I love that too. And I mean, and the plants have their vibrations and we have our vibrations, and the oils have their vibrations in the bottles too. Like and having those vibrations interact, it is. I like that. The sun aspect. It does. It goes down to our soul. That's where I always say the mind, body, and soul are connected, and it can help on every single one of those levels.
Yeah.
So well said.
No joke. So deep.
I know. I'm like, we're going all over with this.
Oh my goodness.
This break is brought to you by Essentria Aromatherapy School, leading online school of aromatherapy. If you want to use aromatherapy safely with your family, check out the Foundations of Aromatherapy course. Empower yourself with trusted education. Go to www.schoolofessentria.com.
So what have you found lately? Do you find any kind of like trends lately that you've been seeing with your workshops, your mini courses, connecting with people out, with your own podcast, all of that, just all the connections that you're making? Do you find that there's any kind of trend lately that's been happening, or something that you see more and more that have been coming up that you're like, that kind of needs to be talked about more or addressed more too, because sometimes they're not good trends that we're seeing?
Yeah. So it's a great question. And we touched upon it with that. I'm really noticing this need for awareness about what an essential oil is, how precious they are, and that how much plant materials needed.
Yes.
And so it's that awareness around what it really is. So the Walmart peppermint, like who is that in that bottle? Right.
Yeah.
And layered on that, and this came out in during teaching, another teacher, Amandine, and I were getting stories from students and noticing about over diffusion, not knowing how to diffuse. And this, like, I just gave a workshop about a month ago at a major hospital here amongst nurses. And one of the guys is right in the front. He used a diffuser every night with his little kid, like a 1-year-old. And I was like, thank God you are with me today. And like, please don't do that. So
Yeah.
there's this aromatherapy, essential oils as lifestyle thing that is a continued trend that I think we need to reshape. And go back to what we're talking about is how do we get the professional organizations out there? How do you and I, people like us, get heard more and give good advice for working with essential oils?
Yeah. No, that's so, and it is. And I just think back to that person you just mentioned. And I'm assuming they were diffusing to help them sleep better, their 1-year-old
Of
sleep,
course,
because that's
yes.
always the biggest thing.
An ultrasonic diffuser. And he said it's the kind that you pull out, put the drop in. So it's like the built-in humidifier diffuser thing.
Okay.
So I said, please
yeah.
don't do that. Maybe you want to put a drop of lavender on a cotton pad as they're going to bed, and then you could take that away.
Yeah. Or you diffuse for 15 minutes before bedtime and then turn it off when it's time for bed. That's always something, because I know a lot of people, they just love their diffusers, which I do. I love my diffuser too. There's a time and a place for them.
Yes.
But especially at 1, it's, small increments and before bed. I always did it like as you're getting your jammies and brushing teeth and doing stories. And then when it's actually bedtime, you turn it off because it's still in the air, and that's enough that's needed. And the other part too is it made me think of essential oils won't change natural habits. 1-year-olds don't need to sleep through the night. And this is something working with new parents a lot. I get this all the time, and it's normal for babies to wake through the night. They want you, they need you. It's still a crazy world once they're outside the womb. Even at 12 months, it's a lot of cold and bright lights and overstimulation, and they just need you in the middle of the night sometimes, and that's okay. So diffusing your lavender won't change that need for that little baby.
Nikki,
and that's what I try and tell people.
You just made my day, and I wrote it down. Like, this is something that I've not said this. So essential oils don't change natural habits. And that is just beautiful. Thank you for like bringing that into my vocabulary. And I love, it's like essential oils aren't the panacea, right? Like we're the ones that need to take responsibility for our lives.
Yes.
So if I'm working with the oils for sleep as the holistic aromatherapy practitioner, I have to be like, well, why aren't you sleeping? What's the underlying issue? And like you said, babies will wake up during the night. If I'm drinking coffee at 3 p.m., like I know I shouldn't, I know my sleepers will suffer. The oils aren't really going to help me with that. They could try. And, it's like we need to take responsibility and realize the oils will not transform our lives. They're subtle and they give us little nudges and help us. But
yes, they'll help the body kind of help itself, but it's not the oils that are doing the magic. They're helping the body do what it's supposed to be doing, I always say. And then but you still need to find the root cause. If you have eczema, what's the cause of the eczema? You can make all the lotions and balms and blends that you want to help the eczema, but until you tackle the root cause, it will continue to flare. It'll get better, but it will continue to flare. And that's what I find a lot of people, they just want the magic wand. And I'm like, it is a magic in itself of, I always like to say it's magic when we're working with plants in general, but I'm like, but it's not the magic wand of it'll cure everything.
Bibbidi bobbidi boop.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah, that's tough. And you're conjuring up when I studied herbalism with Jim McDonald. He's a Michigan-based herbalist. We were talking before, I was born in Detroit, and he's in White Lake, Michigan. But I love it when he says the herbs, and we could say essential oils within that, they tell the body to do stuff.
Yes, that is exactly it. They're not doing it. They're just allowing the body to do what it needs to do. Like I love
Yeah.
that. So now, being an herbalist and an aromatherapist, how do you find like marrying the two together? Do you find that they're very similar? Do you find that they're very different? Because I mean, they each have their own place. They are not the same. And a lot of people think that they're just the same. And I'm like, no, they're not the same. They do each have their place, but I do find that they can complement each other at times too. So I would love to hear your view on the two modalities.
I love that. This is a slippery slope because again, I'm a kitchen herbalist. So when I see clients, I work as an aromatherapist and I'll use my herbalist training. And again, I'm not certified. I just took a 1-year program and I have a love of the plants. But like the aromatics, and this is used in herbalism too, mostly through teas and tinctures, right?
Yeah.
The aromatics shine for helping with the nervous system, which includes a lot of the aromatics are wonderful in the respiratory tract, on the GI tract, even on the reproductive tract, I'll call it that, but that's wrong. So I will always look to aromatherapy and the oils for those things. Like, do you have an upset stomach? You can smell ginger, right? Are you working with anxiety, depression? Things that work on that level are the oils, are the aromatics. And herbalists even work with essential oils, for that. So I find that the herbalist training and a lifelong training of me just like being in, like always reading about plants and stuff. It's like, if it's a metabolic issue, please turn to herbalism. Like when you're starting to talk about internal use of things, I prefer the herbalist route. I do have training in aromatherapy, taking internally. I have worked with clients and myself with suppositories and pessaries and tablets and stuff. But you know what? I really would say herbalism belongs there, and aromatherapy and essential oils shine with olfaction, like the diffuser, inhalation, and that topical application for emotional work. And if you do have a skin issue, is nice, or maybe feminine reproduction, but I hope I was clear.
Because again, you just opened a whole can of worms that we could go down, but we don't have the time of the internal use, because I'm also trained in aromatic medicine. So, there can be a time and a place for internal, but first of all, in Canada, you can't even get insured to practice it. So, I got it for my own personal use and benefits, and as a school I wanted that advanced education, but I can't even practice it. But like you said, I love that view of the herbals are such a better option, or not necessarily better, that might not be the word, but I'm going to use the word because it's kind of what's fitting for me right now. It's a better option when using them internally, because they still have so many, like they have the great benefits that can be used. Whereas the essential oils are so much more for that olfactory, topical aspect.
The nervous system.
Yeah.
And the thing that, like, to get into aromatic chemistry, and we talk about solubility a lot, when we work with herbal preparations, we get more of the whole plant.
Yes.
So if I need, I'm on the spot now, so I can't even think about some of the secondary components and metabolites. But if I need carotenoids, I'm not getting that in essential oils. People make that, can I swear?
Yeah.
The bullshit claim, like there's vitamin C in citrus oils. No. If you understand the distillation process, the weight of carbon, like not happening. So we want to go, the closer we can get to food as our medicine, I think is the really nice thing with herbalism. When we work with, I think tinctures are kind of the go-to, in teas and decoctions. You're getting the water soluble stuff with the alcohol soluble stuff. So you're getting more of those constituents that wouldn't be coming out. Yeah. So that's my answer.
Yeah. And that made me think of if you're looking for the vitamins and all of that also, and you don't want to get into herbalism, this is where you look at the carrier oils, because they have the benefits. They have the different fats. They have all the different chemistry of what can be beneficial and support the essential oils. Like, it's not a one size fits all when it comes to the carrier oils also. They have, some are higher in vitamin A, some are higher in vitamin E, D, whatever, you want. And like the antioxidants, all of that, like that's where you go to get that part of it when you're formulating.
That's beautifully said.
Then you marry them together.
Yeah. Hence, like the carrier, I remember my learning from Jade Schutz. So she's like and she learned this from one of her influential teachers. The carrier is just as important as the oils.
Oh, absolutely. It is. I mean, when I'm in a pinch, I always have my one go-to because it's the easiest. And when I give massages, it doesn't stain my sheets and doesn't cover the aroma, that type of stuff. But like when I'm legit blending for, okay, I need something for XYZ, what's happening on my skin right now, what's going to nourish my skin. I'm not just going to pull like my fractionated coconut oil, because that is probably not what I'm going to be needing right now. I'm going to look at what exactly my skin is lacking, and let's see how we can add the benefits from the carrier oil. The carrier oils. And I have to give a shameless self-promotion thing here. I wrote an article, it's on Mother Earth Living, about the carrier oils. And one of my passions is about getting to know who's around you. So I've become obsessed with blueberry seed oil, cranberry seed oil, and think of the gorgeous things we have in North America. Yeah.
Right. So I don't always, like, my body doesn't love the butters. My background is I'm like Polish, Russian.
Yeah.
That I'm from that part of the world. My skin is not, doesn't love coconut oil. It doesn't love shea butter. It loves cranberry seed.
That's awesome.
So I really encourage people to get curious about the plants that they live by and having those carrier oils in their life.
That's a great point. Oh. I feel like we could talk for hours and hours and hours. However, I'm noticing the time. So if you have one last thing that you would like to tell our listeners, one last little negative info of all your wealth of info.
You know what? I think I've said this before with other people too. It's just stay playful and curious. And that curiosity brought you to study and look for a school to become certified and seek information. So the more we stay curious and are open to mistakes. So like, I'm going to make a scrub right after our conversation. I played around with the formula last week and I hated the way it came out. So I'm going to try again. And I used it and I gave it to this client, but I was like, I think it's a bit too wet, but I was trying something new. You know what? Be playful.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Thank you. And Thank you. If people are looking to connect with you, to learn more about you, can you share where can people seek you out?
Thank you. And thanks for having me. This is so fun. Look me up at nycaromatica.com. That's also on Instagram. And I have a lot of free information out there. So I have read my articles about plants and stuff like that. I love doing those, and my plant talk videos, if you want to see me geek out and read you poetry.
Nice. Are you on, because I know you have your podcast also.
That's right. Essential Aromatica.
Whoops. Okay. So where do you do your plant videos?
Oh, so I'm very grateful. I spend time between New York City and then the North Fork of Long Island, out on the quote East End in kind of farm country. So my husband and I have a house out there, and you'll see me like next to my rosemary plant or stuff like that. I just distilled rose petals this weekend.
That'd be beautiful.
Yeah. Awesome. So it's like you see me with the plants, I'm me. I think you get an idea for my personality. And it's Thank you so much for having me, Nikki.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much for joining us today. The Essential Oil Scoop. We are here with Amy, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
This episode was brought to you by Essentria, a leading online aromatherapy school. You can join the free Introduction to Essential Oil course at www.schoolofessentria.com.
If you love this episode or you got a lot of value out of it, please make sure you share it with someone in your community who you think will enjoy it too. If you haven't already subscribed or reviewed the show yet, please go over to your preferred streaming platform and hit subscribe, then leave a review. This is the best way to help support us, and we appreciate it. Email us with a screenshot of your review, and you will be entered into our monthly draw for a free mini course.
This podcast is for information purposes only. We are certified clinical aromatherapists and holistic health professionals. If you have a medication concern, please refer to your health team. Everyone's health is unique to themselves, so the topics and suggestions stated may or may not apply to you directly.